Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Burke, and it's finally good. Hopefully, I'll see some other great presentations. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me. But again, this is Glenn Burke, HD584, The Powers of Stories. This is my presentation on intersectionality, and here we go. So, I just wanted to give you a briefing on the book. I called it Beating the Odds because when you think about a lot of these things that we're talking about are reasons that in the book why intersectionality had to even be discovered and had to even find a name for intersectionality. So when you think about, I'm just going to read this to you briefly. The book Shifting explains how women have had to shift their lives to survive in America. But when you have an African American woman, it becomes even more complicated. Black women have created smart ways to handle tardy and pain in different forms of humor to keep going. They are the nurturing single mothers, the primary income, displayed resilience and inner strength to overcome all obstacles. Black women have faced with oppression, sexism, the ability to have unconditional love, even while being mistreated mentally and physically. So that's from the book Shifting. That we had in class. And so it just kind of, when I read that, it made me think of intersectionality because this is a lot of the things that they're talking about and why we needed to go deeper in layers of how we're helping other people. So I just wanted to give you a brief, just an aha moment of what I felt like intersectionality and why I was even created the word. So who coined the term? Born in Ohio, Canton, Kimberly Crenshaw coined the word intersectionality in 1989. I believe it was for a lot of the reasons that I had just named, because Black women were not really getting the rights that they felt like they deserved. Crenshaw is a Black feminist lawyer who is a professor at UCLA and Columbia Law School, and she goes back and forth between both of those universities. She has written on the subject dealing with Black feminist legal theory, civil rights, racism, and law. She also talks about how she teaches civil rights and other courses in critical race studies. So let's move forward. So what is intersectionality? According to W.Y. Boston blog, intersectionality is a framework for conceptualizing a person, a group of people, a social problem as affected by a number of discriminations and disadvantages. It takes into account people's overlapping identities and experiences in order to understand the complexity of prejudices they face. In other words, intersectionality theory asserts that people are often disadvantaged by multiple sources of oppression: their race, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, and other identity markers. In short, intersectionality recognizes that identity markers, basically female and Black women, do not exist independently of each other, and that each informs the others, often creating complex conversions of oppressions with, I think that's dealing a lot with the lines that you're seeing when you think about how all of us are complicated individuals and we all have layers within ourselves. So this is one that I designed, intersecting oppression women. So I believe this is what Kimberly Crenshaw was talking about when she was thinking about intersectionality. First, it was, she was thinking about women and civil rights for women. But then how about the race? The Black women, Latino women might have been left behind and not really getting that full support because they're under the umbrella of just women. Then you think about class. Well, how was that helping like low income women? How was that helping Section 8 women or single mothers? But then, and also religion. So you may help rights for religion of all kinds, but how about people of who are Muslim, Jewish, or then within that, or Christianity? You think about Baptists, Catholics, Presbyterians, non-denominational, Presbyterian, all those different Methodists, and then you think about sexual orientation. So all these things, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, all these things have different courses running through each other who make up this particular woman. What is the root of her? So I wanted to include this too, like the subheading, think outside the box. So just think about it for a minute, your identity and intersectionality. So there is an entire person, but who is that person? So if you look to the right, race and ethnicity, that could mean, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, mixed. And within that, you may have layers because you think about, people who are mixed, and you think about gender, male, female. But in that, that's where the layers come in. Like I might be a male, but I'm a black male, and I may live in a low income neighborhood and things like that. Um, I may have a disability. Sexuality, you think about that has different layers within it itself as well. So gay, straight, lesbian, transgender. So all these different things that make up a person. So I thought that was interesting to see how many divisions are within a division. So also, I know we talked about this a little bit, but I really like Broad's ecological theories. It made me think of just exactly what Kimberly Crenshaw was speaking of when you think of the root, but what's outside of, or what's within that root. So the root is, for example, in here, you think about a child, you think about a children's right, but what about the outside force of that child? So, like, for instance, the microsystem, you have influences from your family, the school, your peers, your neighborhood, the daycare, different religious organizations, how the child should be raised, mesosystems, and then you have your exosystems, which is also an extension of your school board, your principals, mass media, which is a big one as of today, the microsystems, and then you have your chronosystems, which is environmental changes also. So this is a good example, I feel, of intersectionality also, just talking about how many different layers you can have within one person. So I thought it was cool to kind of show you example of that. So theories, I wanted to include this too because it kind of piggybacks off of what I was saying about the ecological theories and how complicated it can be and how complex it can be when you think about an individual, but then their race, ethnicity, religion. When you think about, I thought about religion, and religion can go so many different areas within one umbrella. When you think about Christianity, you have non-denominational, you have Catholics, you have Methodist, African American Methodist. You have non-denominational. You get the point. Education. Do you have a master's? Do you have a PhD? Do you have a GED? Sexuality, your age range, which kind of deals with like Eric Erickson's theories of how he's talking about your developmental and what stage you are as an adult. Your income, your gender, your heritage, which is a huge one. That it can be definitely overlooked depending on your heritage and what you feel you want to represent and what gets ignored within that. So I thought this was cool to include in geographical location, which is another one. I thought about that too because I live in California, but also, are we looking at Los Angeles? Are we looking at Oakland? Are we looking at San Francisco? So are farmers being represented in the state of California? Things like that, steel workers. So it just kind of depends. When you put people in one box, it gets complicated because there's so many different layers, even when you're in the same state. That's why you have counties and cities and towns and things like that. So try to include all those people within that. So that's what I kind of think. So here is a list of my references that I went through to get my research, and that is my intersectionality report. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the class. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to let me know. Thanks so much, everybody. Again, this is Glenn Burke.